So, do you guys know the meaning of posterior? Do you remember us talking about the different directions of your body when we're talking about anatomy? So posterior means behind. So directly posterior to your frontal lobe is your parietal lobes. And your parietal lobes, they are, like I said, just posterior to your frontal lobe, and it's the motor cortex. So all your movement goes through your parietal lobe. Everything, when your arm moves, what's purposeful, if you want your arm to move or you want your foot to kick when you're playing soccer, it goes through your parietal lobe.
That's P-A-R-T?
I-E-T-A-L.
P-R-I.
So if I'm talking about this lobe, what direction is it to your parietal lobe? Right. So just posterior to that is your occipital lobe. Occipital lobe. And this is where your eyes work at. All your vision, it is your center for your sight. So the way your brain works is you'll have something in front of you and it goes all the way to the back of your brain and all the way back before you can actually see it. So it's pretty cool. Right below this, right here, is your cerebellum. And your cerebellum is your balancing center. So it controls your posture, it controls your balance, your coordination. When you learn to ride a bike, your cerebellum works overtime to teach you how to stay up and pedal with both of your feet. And I didn't draw it very well, but this area right here is your temporal lobe, right above your ears. So your temporal lobe, if you can imagine, since it's right above your ears, is for your hearing center. So everything that you hear through your ears, and actually some of the stuff that you speak comes through your temporal lobe. Yes, ma'am.
Can I go paste where it goes on the illustration?
Yeah, it's
the cerebellum and the temporal.
So there's, okay, so let me explain real quick. There's a part in here that looks like this, that your temporal lobe goes around that. So this little area that's dotted is not your temporal lobe, it's inside your temporal lobe in the back of your brain. So right here is your temporal lobe.
This right. So I would mark this
Yes,
or
ma'am.
this part?
This one right here, because this one's going to there. My lines are kind of messy.
Okay, so that's the
Temporal lobe, yes. And then inside there, you have your brainstem. So your brainstem actually includes this whole area right here, and there's 3 different parts to your brainstem. So what you have right here is your midbrain, and this is on your diagram, midbrain. On your diagram, it's this area, I don't know if you can see my paper very well, but it's this area right in here. And then you have an area right here that looks like balls. Not saying it that way, but it looks like little balls, no matter how I say it. And that's your pons, P-O-N-S, sorry. And then this area back here is your medulla oblongata. The brainstem is the most important part of your brain because it houses in the most important functions of your body. Your brainstem, everything that your brainstem does is automatic. So your heart beats, you don't think about it, it's automatic, it's controlling your brainstem. Your diaphragm moves up and down when you breathe, it's automatic, it's in your brainstem. The midbrain helps control the temporal and the occipital lobes. So it helps with your hearing, your sight. The medulla oblongata is the main control for your automatic senses. So your heartbeat, your diaphragm, your breathing, your respiratory, your circulatory systems, that's all controlled in your medulla oblongata. The pons is the relay center between the cerebellum and the cerebrum. We're not learning about cerebrum today, so we won't do too much with the pons, but it controls most of your hormones, your vitamins in your body. It tells your body what you're low on. So we're not going to get into that today because that's more of the neurological and circulatory system. But since do we have everything labeled?
Mm-hmm. Almost.
You good, Hadley? So since we have labeled everything, and I'm hoping you guys were paying attention while I was telling you the functions, I'm going to ask a couple of questions and we'll see who remembers anything about the brain that we just learned. And then we're going to take a little test on just labeling. And then if you guys would like to, you can come up and play with the 3D diagram, and it tells you a bunch more stuff on the brain. So if I were to ask you what the biggest part of your brain was, which lobe is it? Very good. If I were to ask you which one controls your sight, your hearing. If I were to ask you which part of your brain connects your temporal and your occipital lobes. Does anybody remember that? Yes, the midbrain. So last question, if I asked you which part of your brain is the automatic part? It controls your breathing, your circulatory system, your heartbeat. God bless you, medulla oblongata. So does anybody have any specific questions about the brain? So the pons we're going to learn about in a future class, but the pons controls your hormones and it connects the cerebellum and the cerebrum, and that one we'll learn when we learn about the circulatory system. Does anybody want to check out the 3D brain? I can bring you the laptop, or you can come up to the front. And that one will tell you more things than I did. Anybody else want to come up with Kathleen? When you guys are finished looking up here, you can put your papers over for me and we'll take the quiz. I want you to label it, and I want you to write down one thing that you can remember that goes with that lobe. Oh. Eyes on your own paper, class. If you guys can't remember something that goes with the lobe, that's okay, because we're gonna review again next time. I'll give you guys about 1 more minute. I don't have any more blank papers, so we're gonna use one of the brains that I was practicing drawing. Not this one, so you're welcome. So if I were to point right here, what lobe is this? Parietal. What do we remember from the parietal lobe? Nothing? Yes. Yes.
I remember what it did.
So it controls, it's not automatic, but it controls your movements of your body, so your purposeful movements. If you're playing soccer and you want to kick the ball, use that part of your brain. If you're playing softball and you don't want to swing and miss, use that part of your brain. So what about this lobe? It goes at the bottom of your brain, it goes temporal. Which one's that for? Mm-hmm. And this one? And the frontal lobe? What are its functions?
Oh, reasoning. Yeah, reasoning.
Memory, helps you think. This little one all the way in the back of your brain. Cerebellum.
Yeah, sorry.
What's your the function of your cerebellum?
It helps you balance and ride a bike.
Yes, very good. What about the one right above your cerebellum? And that's for? Very good. And here's our brainstem. So this area right here, pons, and this is the one we're going to talk about later, remember, but this is for your circulatory system. And what about right here in the middle of your midbrain? And what's your midbrain function?
Connects the temporal and occipital lobes.
Right, it helps them work better. So they work together so that you can hear and see and talk and everything all at the same time. And then you have your, what's your medulla oblongata?
Heartbeat.
Automatic, so everything in your body that's automatic, blinking and breathing and smelling and all of that. Very good. High schoolers learn a lot quicker than little kids.